So moving along, I'm going to go ahead and start placing some markups and give everyone, again, kind of the lay of the land on how the software would work. And I can always do this. Actually, let me unsplit my screen here. I can always do this directly from the command bar at the top. So under markup, I have a whole bunch of markup tools that are available, and they're all kind of subcategorized out. I always typically start with the text box. So this works like any other text box in any other program. I click and drag, type whatever I'd like, in this case literally text box, click outside the box, and it will give me this box. I can resize it, so I click and drag. I can rotate it just by using the rotation tab, and I can go ahead and customize it as well. So I can give it properties. Maybe I want to give it a background fill of blue, or the text color of black, whatever I'd like to do, and be able to do that directly from here. Give it an outline, whatever it may be, and you can see all of those properties are being carried over. So if I were to add a different tool, for example, so I placed a new markup on this page, I can always, again, come back into the properties and customize those directly from here as well. There's a slew of other tools. Again, we don't have the time to be able to dive into all of them, but really kind of any sort of shape and function that you'd like is all available here directly from this interface. So a lot of people really like clouds as a way to identify a location, and so that's a very easy one to get at just under the shape function, or I can use the C on my keyboard and be able to kind of hotkey to it. You'll also notice a lot of these tools are in the toolbar on the right-hand side. So I kind of use all three dependent on what I'm trying to do, but know that if I don't come back up here, I'm typically either using the keyboard shortcut or going to the right-hand side. We also have a lot of stamps, hyperlinks. You can add images, really kind of the whole gamut of what you're looking to try to do. All of that can be accomplished within this markups list. The other item down the command bar line is the measurement function, which, just like any other markups, will place information on the page, basically floating above the content itself. But what's different about the measurement tab is that it's going to give me some sort of quantifiable information at the end of it. So, for example, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and calibrate this drawing, basically tell the computer what the scale of the drawing is, which in this case is 1/16 inch equals a foot. And so I actually have a defined scale here with known points in between. So I'm going to go ahead and click the first and last point and tell the computer that that is 32 feet. Go ahead and click OK. And now that is basically embedded into the sheet, and I can go ahead and start taking measurements. So for example, I need to know the length of that wall. I can go ahead, select the length tool, and basically snap to the two edges and see how long that particular item is. And I can continue to do this around all those different walls, or I can actually use what's called the perimeter tool, and this would allow me to take multiple line segments all at once and find these functions very easily. Now, I'm not going to snap to every single point, but you can see here just those additional line segments are coming out to 264 feet 4 inches. Now, this can get really exact if I'd like. In fact, I don't know. Let me pop open the measurements panel so you can see it. As of right now, this is rounded to the nearest inch. So if I select that particular item and change the precision, for example, you'll notice that this even gets more precise down to, in this case, the nearest 1/8 of an inch. I could get it down to the nearest 32nd of an inch if I really wanted to. Obviously, I don't need that precision, so I'm going to roll it back to a 1 in this case. All right, so again, I'm speeding through a lot of this information. There's a question that popped in. Can the pattern for the cloud be customized? And the answer is yes. And actually, this would hold true on just about any markup on the page. So I'm actually going to customize all of the markups all at the same time. And I did that using Control-A on my keyboard. I can also come into Edit and select all of the markups. and that would do the exact same function. Basically, I want to customize these all at once, and so what I'm going to do is pop open the Properties panel and customize them. So in this case, I'm going to give everything a subject of government, maybe give everything a blue color, and you'll see that these will kind of change all at once. Maybe give everything a fill color of teal. You can kind of see this coming together. Maybe change the fill opacity a little bit. And then as we get into, for example, text, I can give everything a text color of black. Now, for example, something as specific as the cloud itself, I can get into line styles if I'd like. So I can give this a zigzag or an insulation, whatever it may be. And I can also give it a hatch. So anything that has some sort of fill, I can give that a specific hatch pattern, and there's several that are already baked in here, or I can create my own as well. So in this case, I'm going to give it some dots, and you can see that this is getting a little wild and crazy, but the idea is that I have complete ability to customize this. All right. So what we're going to do here is transition a little bit into the ability to standardize the interface. So as you can see, I had a lot of ability to customize what was going on, kind of unhid a lot of these settings down here. If I come over to view again, I can unhide a lot of information and change these different settings using maybe the rulers or all the toolbars that are available, the different tabs, things like that, and hide or unhide these different items. And all of this stems back to what particular profile I'm in. Now in this case, I'm still in my design review profile, but I've started to customize this particular profile to fit my liking. You'll notice this ruler here at the top. I'm going to leave that as is. Maybe that's something I want. I'm going to add a couple toolbars before I get too much further. Excuse me. We'll add the document, maybe the edit. That's a big one for me because I always use the backspace bar, backspace button. Excuse me, because I'm always misclicking different things. And I now have this arrangement just looking the way that I'd like. So what I'm going to do is actually save this profile. But before I do, I want to mention two other things. One is this tool chest over here. This basically has a saved list of different tool sets pertaining to the profile that I started in this case, design review. But I may want to customize my own tool set utilizing tools that I've created for myself. And so what I can do is actually under the tool chest, there's a blue gear wheel here, and I can go ahead and add a new tool chest. I'm going to call this my government profile. I have the option to show in all profiles. I'm going to uncheck this right now and just show in currently my design review profile, but ultimately in my government profile that I'm going to use. Now I'm customizing all this in my design review to ultimately save over into a new profile. You'll notice I now have a blank tool set down here, which is government, and I can go ahead and click and drag any of these tools into that particular profile. You'll notice I have a running list of all the tools that have been utilized thus far. Maybe I just want those particular items, those three that can then be reused. Now, you'll notice that some of these, in this case, are exact copies of the ones that are already on the page. So if there's some sort of specific text or whatever it may be that gets used quite frequently, you can always create a tool and keep it in what's called drawing mode. And that's, as I mentioned, exact copy, exact shape, exact text. Or I can right-click and put it into properties mode, and that will do the exact same properties, but allow me to define the shape and the text. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I have the ability with this particular tool set to export it out and share it, or I can go ahead and save it to a profile and share the profile itself. So I'm going to show both options just so you can kind of see how that works. Under this blue gear wheel here, and the gear wheel always gets you to the settings no matter where you're at. You'll see a bunch of gear wheels within the interface. if you don't know what you're capable of doing within a tool set or with a markup, whatever it may be, always go to the gear wheel and it'll kind of give you the short options that are available. And one of these is to save, and then the other one is to export. So as I select export here, I'm just going to save this government tool set to my desktop. If I go ahead and click save and pop back to my desktop profile, you'll notice that I actually have a new item here called a government, it looks like a tool chest, but it's a Bluebeam Revu tool set, or a .btx. So it's a review specific tool set that you can then share, attach to an email, things like that. Really neat functions there. So, but in this particular case, I want to actually share this entire profile, the entire interface with the toolbars that are exposed here and the different settings that I've gone through and customized, including this this ruler here. And I can do that again back at the top under my profile manager. Again, just to note, I'm currently in the design review profile, but I'm going to save these settings just by clicking on the blue guy with the bow tie, not the drop down, and or create a brand new profile that will borrow all of these settings. So I'm going to go ahead and add, call it government, and try and spell it right for once. Go ahead and click OK. And now as I come back to that drop down, you'll see that I am in the government profile. That's great. And I can always come back to this and utilize that particular profile. But if I were to go do a different profile, let's hop into the simple one, for example, which you remember is very stripped down. If I hop back into my government, it will pull back in all of those exact same settings that I had gone through originally. But I can also export this out. So I can share this. And I'm just going to select government from that list. I'm going to include dependencies, which would include, for example, the tool sets, any custom columns that are established, which we won't get to today, but very neat functions within the markups list. But I'm going to go ahead and export this out. Again, send it to my desktop, and you'll see it saves as a Bluebeam profile as the file type. Go ahead and click Save. And if I pop back out to my desktop here, you'll notice that I now have a blue guy with the bow tie file, which is my government profile. If I were to share this with anyone, attach it to an email, place it on a network shared drive, whatever it may be, anyone that double clicks on that profile and has Revu installed on their computer, it will basically automatically upload. And in fact, if I do it here, it's going to say, already tried, but you have an active profile with that name. So there's not a whole lot of establishment that really needs to go on with the ability to import and export those tool sets and profiles. So it makes implementing very easy. Now to take that a step further, and I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds here, but under Help and Administrator, you can actually get in and establish where you want these different profiles and tool sets to pull from for everyone's interface, for example, and basically predefine for those individuals what profiles or tool sets they can then utilize. So it wouldn't have to be locally installed on every single computer. You could basically just roll out the program to everyone and say, hey, you're going to utilize this file that's saved on a network shared drive, for example.